Shalom, shalom, pretty ladies of worth. Welcome to Returning Daughters. Well, I finally got around to doing the first video for this channel, and I've been in the middle of some other projects. And I finally have some time to do something with this page. The first thing I want to discuss with you all in this video is this is a woman's only channel. I will only accept comments from women only. I will discuss issues that are sensitive to women only. Because sometimes we don't have the community accessible to us, or we become part of an online forum, and maybe we don't do well with forums or whatever the case would be. But in this video, I do want to stress that I am a real person. I am not perfect, although I strive to do better. I will not be fake with you and pretend that I am just so holy in a box of chocolates. I do laugh, I do joke, and I smile. And I will let you know some things. I will be straightforward with you. Although in love, there's some things that have to be mentioned that maybe a lot of other people don't mention or are too frightened to mention because they want to save face, or they don't want the humiliation or the attacks that come from other people simply by mentioning certain topics. Some things may hurt, other things joyful and informative. And the first thing I want you all to learn is to speak up for yourselves. Ladies, sometimes you are just too doggone quiet when it comes to women issues concerning the dynamic between male and female. Is that you back down to you. Men are the leaders, but don't back down so far that you become a walking mat. You're a mat for people to walk over. And I'm talking to all of you, women of all backgrounds, but especially to my black sisters. I'm going to make videos really that's going to be informative to all women, because I'm not into that whole, I know the truth about who I am and who my people are, but I'm not into the whole, the only Israelite in this world is a black Israelite. Now, that was true some thousands of years ago. We came in all types and looks, but as we dispersed out and we began to mix with other peoples, that is what you have in those nations. I just don't subscribe to that, even though it might have been true at one point. But these days, you can't go around negating people because of how they look, all right? So to my modern day black sisters, you got to speak up. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is because there are unique issues that are specific to this particular community that I'm speaking of. Is that, a lot of the men have, the people that our people have been through a lot. And so what happens is, in order to make the black men seem bigger, she stoops down lower and develops a backache. That's in a matter of speaking. To make him appear bigger when really all he has to do is just work on himself. And, we shouldn't really deal with the male issue. Let the men deal with the male issues. Let the females deal with the female issues. We invested too much time trying to boost the men up to the point where you look around the community, the girls are decaying. They're decaying. So let us take all this energy that we have and put our focus into the woman's issues, how to be a better woman. Because it's once you develop that confidence and knowing who you are in the Most High, that is when your stock increases and you become a more worthy and desirable woman. And only the men who are worthy will approach you and say, well, I would like you to be my wife. You're not going to sit back and look at trash just because he looks like you and accept him into your life. Like I said, I'm going to bring out things that need to be spoken about because I don't see these issues put out on the internet the way they should be. So I'm going to be one to speak out. Of course, I'm sure that there are other women who do speak on certain issues, but sometimes it needs to be out on YouTube where other people can see it, because sometimes other people may not understand what the situation is. And sometimes when they hear it, they go, oh, okay, that's why it's like this and such a thing. If there is a concern, especially if you know certain situations and certain decisions are going to harm you in any form or fashion, learn to speak up. I did not say be disrespectful. I said pick a format or something, pick a time when you can bring up these issues. Stop sitting back, because masculinity is not defined by how quiet the woman is. Masculinity is defined by his actions. Does he protect? Does he hear out his woman to make sure that she is in a that she's well cared for, that her emotions are heard? Is when you ignore and neglect that she decays. Learn to speak up. Yah cares about his daughters, and he talks to you too. What kind of a father would he be not to talk with his daughters? And be careful of that the father does not talk to his daughters, because he does. He does. He doesn't. You don't just become this single woman and all of a sudden you get married, all of a sudden the father cuts off all communications. That's a lie. All right. Now, where am I coming from with this speaking up bit? Numbers 27. Numbers 27 verses 1 through 8. I'm going to read those. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, son of Hepher, son of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, from the clans of Manasseh, son of Yosef. And these were the names of his daughters: Malach, Noach, Haglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moshe and before Eleazar and the priests, and before the leaders and all the congregations by the doorway of the tent of meeting, saying, Our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not in the company of those who were met together against Yahuwah, in the company of Korah. But he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be removed from his clan because he had no son? Give us a possession among the brothers of our father. Moshe then brought their case before Yahuwah, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, The daughters of Zelophehad speak what is right. See, not everything that comes out of our mouth is a Jezebel spirit when we speak up, especially when there is a concern. They call it a Jezebel spirit because now you're speaking up concerning your concerns or things that affect you, and they don't want to be man enough to want to do something about it. That's when they holler Jezebel spirit. Continuing in verse 7, you should certainly give them a possession of inheritance among their father's brothers, and cause the inheritance of their father to pass to them. And speak to the children of Israel, saying, When a man dies and has no son, then you shall cause his inheritance to pass to his daughter. There is sometimes a tendency in these modern times to skim over the cares and thinking of women. Yes, men are the leaders. Let's not make the mistake of overriding an order that was established, but never be so quiet that you don't speak out for what is right. I see this over and over again within the so-called Black Israelite enclaves, and I use that on purpose. Enclaves. And it can be all about the man, it's so all about the man and boosting the man to the point where the woman has got so much baggage and she's carrying rocks and boulders that, she's breaking down. And when you look into the faces of these women, they are unhappy. They're unhappy. These women are not being heard, or some other issue is going on. You do have a voice that can be used when it needs to be used, but within the proper framework. If something needs to be brought up, go to the individual. An excellent example was what I just read, Numbers 27. There's no need to make a big issue in front of everyone unless it's something important that affects the entire body. Then you bring it up to the entire body. Personally, I think there's a very big communication problem between men and women, period. When that breaks down in the Israelite enclave, there is division. It looks like the enclave appears to be together or in one, but they're originally not. They're actually not. Because men are the leaders, there is a form of, the men are the leaders. I want to state this right. But sometimes it could be so overbearing that there's only a one-way communication, which is one way, and that's his way. He's not going to want to hear from you because, me, man, you sit down, shut up. That kind of thing. Me, black man, rise up. You, black woman, you down, you have college degree, you shut up. It's time for you to sit down and be quiet. Not necessarily. There is usage for the woman within the community, within the proper framework. And I'm going to reiterate that, within the proper framework. But never bow your back to make a man appear bigger, because you will end up with the back pain. It's you that will end up with that. He has to be the one to straighten himself out so that you can walk up properly and in comfort. So what happens is that when the woman is not heard, that issues concerning her welfare and how she's feeling, or things that are needed and actually wanted also, he will not understand her thinking and emotions, and will eventually end up abusing the woman in some form or fashion, a form of neglect. Do not underestimate the power of communication within the male-female dynamic. For the men not to want to hear from you is a sure sign that things will end up in a bad situation. It will end up in a one-way situation, and you will be the one with the backache. You will be the one with the arthritis in the lower part of your back. It's a form of neglect. You don't have to be loud with any stuff or disrespectful or have your head going in all kinds of directions or any of all of that. No, just simply bring up a concern that affects the woman's side of the issue. It's not a form of Jezebel's spirit, which a lot of people shout once again. And we shout it so much, even amongst the women, that we become afraid to speak. It's good to know about those things, but not overbearing to a point where we just totally just put ourselves out the pasture. Here is a truth. Here is a simple truth, and remember this. The well-being and status of the women of a particular community or people is a sure sign or barometer of the well-being or status of its men. If you are not protected, looked after, if the men do not have empathy for their women, the women will decay, and so will its children. And in the Hebrew community, it must improve. Because when you look at it from the whole perspective, ladies, you are not there. You're breaking down whether you realize it or not. Thank you. Shalom.